Sports Reverends podcast. My name is Dan, and I'm joined with my big bro. Y'all know him as the coach. His name is Joel. He's not only a coach on the basketball court, he's also a coach in the stock markets as well. And boy, do we got a special show for you today. You know, a lot of podcasts will give you something to take away. Some will help you make that money. Some will help you have some peace. Some will help you learn to get in shape. Well, our podcast, we actually have something better than all those things put together. Yeah, what we'll talk about is through sports and our faith in Christ, how we have been pulled out of the mud throughout our stormy seasons and challenging seasons. Though there's one answer that solved all of our problems, and we want to share that with you. And that's all about our faith in Christ, and we want to share that with you and show you how that can help you as well. That's the reason for our show. So what you're going to hear is our hot sports takes for sure. I think you'll hear some high sports analysis, but most importantly, you're going to hear about our unapologetic faith. Before we dive in, Coach, how is your week going?
It feels like it should be Friday already. It's only Tuesday here as we record, but it's been a long week. That's okay. We got some fun times coming up ahead. How about yourself? How's the week been? Anything exciting your day off?
Nothing too exciting. Mondays, I'm just out like a light. I'm just crashed because it's been a heavy weekend. So that's my Monday. So I took it easy, spent lots of time with the dog, a couple long walks and all that. And now back at it. Tuesdays are like my Mondays. So it's just busy, filled with meetings, getting to connect with people, and just thankful that the Lord gives me the strength, because sometimes I'm just
oh, amen to that. Amen to that. Let's get rolling here. Pitter patter. Let's get at her. Quick hitters. Why don't you start us off? We'll do a quick hitters today. Talk basketball. A couple of interesting teams on both the west and the east side of things. And then real talk today. Phrase it as a question. Why do we cling on to the things that we know are wrong or aren't good for us? So number one, quick hitter. Why don't you start us off, Dan?
All right, let's go. Sadly, this was really sad to watch. Mavs. The Dallas Mavericks, Kyrie Irving has a torn ACL and is out for the rest of the season.
Yeah, tough blow for the Mavs. Tough blow for Kyrie, who's having another strong year. The New York Jets have unsurprisingly, released Devontae Adams. Where will he land next?
And Saquon Barkley signed a 2-year, $41.2 million contract extension, guaranteed $36 million. I believe that's the highest guarantee for a running back. Pretty wild, well deserved.
First time.
It's gonna plague that division. So my Cowboys.
It kind of reverses the trend of, hey, don't pay a running back over 30. So could be seeing a shift here in the NFL. Speaking about money, the ACC, Florida State University, and Clemson have ended litigation and have changed the league's revenue distribution model. It's also, here's the key note, lowered the exit fee for teams that want to, or universities that want to get out of the deal before 2036. So could we see another amalgamation of college sports?
And lastly, another sad note here. Orlando Magic's Jalen Suggs has knee surgery and is also out for the rest of the year. Before we go anywhere else, let's handle some business. Over to you, Coach.
Let us handle some business. As Dan mentioned in the opening monologue, I am part of the team here that helps our clients manage their finances and plan for the future and find a second source of income, or even potentially turn that into their full-time job. I am one of the lecturers and advisors here at Train to Invest. We are partnering with people to help them take out the middleman and learn a new set of skills so that they can manage their portfolio on their own. We have a free ebook on our website, www.train2invest.com. That's train2invest.com. Give it a download, read it through, and then contact us to see if we're a right fit for what you are trying to do. Whether it's managing your money, whether it's saving for retirement, or even planning for a wedding or upcoming baby. We here at Train to Invest are here to help you meet your fiscal needs in a sustainable way, and also give you a set of skills you can pass down to your family and potentially do with your family so that you can have this become a generational thing. So if you're looking for a educational course that's here to meet your needs, check us out, www.train. On to some basketball here. Let's start off in the East. Cleveland, looking shaky against Boston last week, but managed to pull it out. I'm sure you watched some of the game, or at least watched the highlights. Initial thoughts? What do you think there?
I was watching the first quarter, and all I see is Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They're waving "Get out of here" to the Cavs. One thing I like to say is that the next 4 months, I know the NBA ratings have been poor. I know it's been felt dry. But every year, I think we always forget this is when the NBA chill as well. This is when the games start actually meaning something. There's like 20 games left. Teams start really locking in, and it's matchup city, and it's actually what we want for basketball. So that's an exciting point, and that's what we got watching the Celtics Cavs game. And amazing, the Cavs are for real. DeAndre Hunter signing is turning out to be huge. So they added their best defender and a player that's hitting, I think, 55% of his threes.
It's on fire.
Unbelievable.
It's on fire.
So great signing for them. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a great series when they hit the Eastern Conference Finals together.
Yeah, and I know that I think Porzingis and Drew Holiday were out for that game, which was fine. But I think the series for the season is tied at 2 apiece. So I think this is going to be a heavily favored matchup in the East. Donovan Mitchell has a lot to prove. We've talked a lot about him being the guy and being one of the top players in the league. He's got to put it together for this playoff run. He's got to step in and be the Donovan Mitchell of old and really take control of the game. Now, it doesn't mean to score every point, but if he's controlling the game, if he's orchestrating things a lot, this Cavs team is going to be a tough out for anybody, even if whoever they play in the finals, if they get that far. So I think this team, while is young and balanced, really depends on how far Mitchell will take them. Because in playoff basketball, rotations are shorter, the whistle comes out a little earlier, and the gameplay slows down. So you have to really execute well in order to take 4 out of the 7 games.
He did have to go nuclear for them to win. But
I mean, it was such a big deficit at the first quarter.
It's true.
Like I watched the first quarter. I'm like, man, cousin Josh is not feeling this right now. If he's awake, he is not feeling this. Let's go over to the Detroit Pistons.
Who would have thunk it?
Finally, after all these years.
Talking about the Detroit Pistons in March, and it's because they're playing great basketball. Since when?
In a positive way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you don't mind, I'll start with this one. I think we ridiculed them a little bit talking about Tobias Harris and the signings they made to eat up their cap space. But as we mentioned, I think the last week, he's not being asked to drop 30 points a game. He's not being asked to be the de facto leader of this team. Cade Cunningham is coming out and he's balling. Him, Evan Mobley, and Scotty. It's surprising how quickly this draft class has turned around. It was it felt a bit subpar, but these guys have come out and have just started playing really well. Detroit, after all those years of high picks, are putting it together, kind of like Houston. And I don't think they're going to win the whole thing, but could they win a playoff series? I think so. They'll be a dangerous out for sure.
They might get home court advantage. That's crazy. They're not that far from fourth.
They're not that far from fourth, but I still think it'd be tough to get them to win more than one series.
Oh yeah, I'm with you on that for sure. But that's a huge success.
It's a huge leap.
And
who's their
shout
coach?
out to
Who's their coach?
JB Bickerstaff, the assistant from the Cavs, who is just
took a leap of faith.
Wow, he is should win Coach of the Year in my opinion. He's done
that's a good call.
He's done an incredible job. You see the Cavs, they were amazing last year. Now he leaves, and now the Pistons are playing like something else, and so he deserves a lot of credit. He's very under talked about, and shout out to these Pistons. They're for real. What's his I forget. He just popped off. They had a signing. What's his name here? Let me just look it up here. Malik Beasley. Wow. What a pickup for them. He's been playing great.
Underrated for sure.
So shout out to the Pistons. Looking good.
Well, they play the Clippers tomorrow, and then they play Golden State after that. If they can win 1 or 2 of those games, that's a big statement, I think.
Yeah.
It's a big statement. Because then they got the Trailblazers coming in town, Wizards, so that's another 2 dubs, hopefully. Back to back with the Wizards, and then the following Saturday on the 15th they play the Thunder. So they have a couple tough ones and then a couple, patsy ones for them to win, a couple increase their home court advantage stats. So let's see if they can put it together. Yeah. They do a shot. I like it. They're a good squad. And also, it's not that far from Toronto and Detroit. I'm just saying, playoff basketball, we never know.
Just the closest we'll get to it.
Yeah, this year at least. Let's look at the New York Knickerbockers. I think depth is going to be an issue.
They just signed Marjon Beauchamp, so
Right.
I think that made he's okay. He may add a little bit of
Right.
rotational piece to them. I think that the having Mitchell Robinson back has totally changed their identity once again. Their defensive tough nose now brings that layer of toughness on the defensive end. So, and the extra rebounding as well. That's kind of what they're missing. And you see the difference there. They look like a different team with him out there.
Big time. Big time. My only concern is that come playoff time, do they have a third big who can fill up some minutes and take some fouls? I'm not sure they have that, because Cat might get in early foul trouble and Robinson might do the same. What's your rotation going to look like now? And with Thibodeau playing this guy's so many minutes, you got to wonder if that's going to be the continued chink in the armor for any Thibodeau-led teams. Do you have enough depth? Do you have enough guys who've played enough minutes throughout the whole year? And have you overplayed your starters? So
come on, I'm against you on that. I think a guy like Josh Hart can play as many minutes as he possibly can, and they do have some rotational pieces. They got Precious Achua. He's a feasible third rotational big. I think
that's a bit of a stretch. I don't think Precious has got the game.
And I don't think regardless, everyone's talking about how the Knicks have so many minutes, all this stuff. They're sitting at like 15 games above 500. They're looking really good. I think their biggest issue is Mikal Bridges. They got to bring him up to par for them to actually make a real playoff push. I think, in my opinion, they're still a better team than the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think they would have a better shot at pushing Boston if they can figure this whole engine out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Knicks bring a different brand of basketball than the Cavs do. Like the Cavs kind of match up player by player a little bit, the same kind of style, big athletic wings, where you have the New York team that's a little more unpredictable, it feels like, right? Just Pat's going to do his thing, but the wings and the guards, like any one of those guys could just go off randomly, right? And win you a game like that. Jalen Brunson's going to get his, but if Mikal Bridges can pull it all together, it's going to be a scary team. It's going to be a scary team. I will give you that. Now, in all the fun talk, let's talk about some losers here.
Woo!
Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid shutting himself down. Surprising the front office with saying, hey, he needs another surgery to get himself right.
Unbelievable. I think he's missed about 40% of his career games. Like, that's an insane stat to me. So, what do you do if you're Philadelphia? Like Nick Nurse, like, how frustrated can one be? Your team just doesn't show up. Him and Paul George has missed a ton of games. So Paul George gets focused in on saying, I'm shutting down the podcast for the time. Podcast Pete's taking a break. Well, you know what? Might as well fire it back up again because you guys are done. There's no point of them playing.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, from a coaching standpoint, that'd be really frustrating. If I was, again, easy for me to say, but if I'm Nick Nurse, I would just be like, Embiid, you're playing 25 minutes. I don't care. If you're going to pout, that's fine. We'll sit you. But again, this is a business, and their business is to win games. You can't win games if you're not there 40% of the time. You can't win games if your other best player, your other alpha dog, who's also more of a chihuahua than anything else, is focusing on his podcast and not putting the time in. Like Tyrese Maxey's got to look at himself and going, I just should have taken a 1-year deal and dipped.
Mm-hmm.
Or he's going to ask for a trade because he's in a horror situation. If Tyrese Maxey came up to the open market, can you imagine the type of bidding war there'd be for him?
Yeah.
It'd be insane.
Absolutely.
It'd be insane. That'd be a guy Miami should go for.
There are odds out for Joel Embiid not to be on the team next year, for them to move off of him. And guess who is the lead front runner?
Well, I think I saw this on social media. It is the woefully begone Toronto Raptors who are supposedly courting Embiid, which would be go on. I'll let you finish.
The only reason I'd want Embiid is if you get him at like a bargain sale pricing. Because you don't want to blow up this young core for what could be a just total giant blob of waste. Because that's what he's shown. Yeah, that's what he's been.
I don't think if you trade for him, Philly's going to ask for the moon, right? Because and you have to match the salaries. It's going to be a gong show.
I don't know if they'll ask for the moon. Who's going to want him?
No, but you have to match the salaries, right? So, but I mean, if you were just talking about like fantasy world, do you want Embiid? Sure. Again, if he plays 15 minutes each half, great, by all means. If he's not going to pout and if he's just going to play Do we want him to play? Great. But I think the Raptors would be foolhardy to even think about this. If Masai, thinks, hey, he's going to take us over the top, you just look at the last couple of years. Wins MVP, sure, can't get out of the second round. Wusses out on the Olympics team and goes and joins the U.S. because he knows he's going to probably win a medal there, right? And even then, he could barely play. So I think he's damaged goods. I think you stay away from him unless you're right. You're getting him to a minimum cost, and you got to move on. So
100%.
I think Philly was stuck between a rock and a hard place for sure when trying to make those decisions. Hey, trust the process, right? Let's flip over to the West, where the trade deadline really shook up everything. It shook up everything. Let's first talk Dallas. Anthony Davis is out. Now Kyrie's out. They've raised ticket prices there in Dallas for investment reasons. This team is a mess. Mark Cuban, I'm sorry, but you let this thing go, and a lot of this blame has to come on you. That's where I'm putting. I know Nico Harrison made the trade. I get that. As soon as you sold that team, it went into dysfunction. And so, Mark Cuban, I know you're not listening, and I know you're probably upset at Trump about something, but this whole Dallas collapse is on you.
Mark Cuban claims he didn't even know about the trade for Luka or for Anthony Davis.
It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, he wasn't part of the decision-making process. By selling the team, he removed himself from that, regardless of what title he was given or advised or whatever. He gave up on the team already, which is crazy. You think they went to the Western Conference Finals, and they went to the finals.
That's right.
He sell the team. Like that's mind-boggling to me. And now you have Kyrie gone. Dallas is sitting in, what is it? They're 10th right now in the West. Probably going to fall further.
Good for Phoenix.
How much further? Good for Phoenix. Maybe Portland could sneak in there, but they're heading towards the bottom. So I don't know what's going on here. It's really upsetting.
Do you think Mark Cuban sold the team for furthering a potential political move?
Ooh, I haven't heard much about that. I think he'd be a popular vote, but also like his leftist policies wouldn't work in Texas.
Yeah.
Right? He'd have to go somewhere else.
I think he's thinking bigger than like governor. I think he's thinking
he's gonna start somewhere, but he can't just run for. I guess he could run for office. He could just pull a Trump and try and run for president.
That's kind of what I think he's thinking.
He's such a wuss, though. He's a giant wuss. He doesn't have the cojones to make decisions and come out on top. Ask you what Cuban 5-7 years ago, completely different answer. This is the guy who founded a company that makes pharmaceuticals cheaper for the everyday person. This is a guy who was on Shark Tank, looking to be entrepreneurial and invest in that way. He was a go-getter. Now, he just complains on Twitter all the time or cries on whatever social media platform about such and things. He's not the right guy. He's not the guy anymore.
You know what's interesting? He always talks about his, I'll just say it this way, his FU money, right? That's what he talks about and saying being able to throw it around. It feels good to throw it around. And with a lot of his beliefs and what he would like to see in the country, I wanted to add this into one of my sermons on a Sunday. I'm not even afraid of a guy like Mark Cuban with all his FU money. If you're going to go up against things of God, like that's a bold thing to do, right? It's a bold stance to take. And that's the kind of faith that I want to have. Say I'm not even afraid of a multi-billionaire. And I really am not. I really am not. Because it's just the truth. If you go up against the things of God, you're just begging.
What happened to Jonah?
Yeah, exactly. You're just begging to get swallowed up by fish. You're begging to just get humbled. And maybe that's a great thing for him to happen.
Maybe. But we always hope for, God to move people's hearts. But Mark Cuban is not scary. He's not scary. Enough about Dallas and the woeful Dallas Mavs. Look at the Los Angeles Lakers sitting second in the West. And I saw this clip. It was It was Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. They do their podcast. And they're talking about if LeBron is your second best player in a playoff series, how dangerous are you as a team? Oof. And I'm thinking, and honestly, I thought about it, and I'm like, that's a matchup nightmare. This is a matchup nightmare. And the Lakers, they don't have the center guy they want. They don't necessarily have the wings that they want. But you got Luka and you got LeBron. Some magic can happen. Now, will they win the West? I mean, possibly. They're crushing teams right now. Who knows? Could they run out of steam? Maybe. But this is a team that I think initially people were like, the fit's not going to be great. like you see all the time. Great players find a way to play with other great players.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you know what? I really like this is the real podcast P. I like Paul Pierce and Kevin Grant. I'm an anti-Celtic guy. Yeah. Just because, we've been plagued by them in Toronto for years and years and years. And then I've always just that's just how it is. But their podcast, I like how they actually keep it pretty real when they're talking basketball.
Genuine. It's genuine.
Genuine basketball talk, especially when the narrative shifted to saying the 2000 to 2015 players, they're like the same as the 1990s and prior of being plumbers and not being able to play hoops. That's where they like really changed their tone. And I love that. And they've been bold about it.
I love that.
I will say this, the Lakers, let me give you a stat that blows your mind. Since the trade, they've been the number one defensive team in the entire NBA. They've been holding teams to around 100 points a game. Like that doesn't happen anymore. It's not a fluke. It's not a fluke either.
That blows my mind. That does blow my mind.
Athletic, long.
I can't even imagine.
JJ Redick, I've given him a lot of flack at the beginning of the year, and he's done an incredible job. You have to give him his flowers. You have to give him the system is working. They're buying in. They're playing hard. And now look at them. They're what? Third in the West or fourth? Second in the West. Like that's
insane. Yeah, I think we have to give JJ Redick some props. First time head coach. He's a obviously coming from Duke, he's a smart guy. Right? But
sure.
Hey, you watch it. He's a smart guy, and he's parlaying his skills and his knowledge because as a player, he was a guy that got along with most people, right? On his team, at least. People may hate playing against him, but he understands the people side of things really well. And I think his intellect and his ability to connect with his players, you see that translate to the court now. I would have probably seen this next year for this team. Right, give them a year to figure things out, get the right pieces. But what they're doing now is incredible. So it's really interesting.
The thing is that I know we've been saying it about LeBron for years and years and years here, but like, when is it going to run out? It is a bit of a ticking time bomb of like how high of a level he's playing at. I still think he can play at a high level, but there's gonna be drops, right? There just has to be. He's not invincible.
Just reduce the guy's minutes.
Yeah.
Could you imagine LeBron coming off the bench playing 25 incredible minutes,
or even as a starter, just playing? He's not going to come off the bench, but
maybe ego-wise, maybe not. But like, if you played 25 crazy minutes, and you got Luka and star number 3 figuring things out the rest of the game,
unreal.
You're in great shape. Looking also at Golden State. Ooh, I didn't see this.
Not at all.
I did not see them going on a run with Jimmy Butler being the linchpin of this team. I think he brings a different dynamic in not in terms of attitude. I think you already get that with Draymond, but he goes to the hoop.
Yes.
Right? He brings guys in. He draws fouls. He's playing hard-nosed. And that's who you hope Kuminga turns into, ideally. Yeah. Right? Like,
for sure.
Kuminga should look at this and be like, I got to take notes, factor out the craziness of Jimmy Butler, but take the game and figure that out. That's insane.
Him and like Jalen Brunson are like some of the best at playing off 2 feet. Their footwork and it's just so shifty. Like, it's really great to see, and they just complement each other. All him, Draymond, and Steph. It's like they're the real deal. I wouldn't want to see them first in the first round. And OKC could see them in the first round, and then they'd have to, if they beat Golden State, they'd have to see potentially the Nuggets in the second round and the Lakers in the conference finals, something like that. That could be a tough road.
Could be the way it goes. Yeah,
so like
for a young team, it's something else.
That would be tough.
I like this Golden State team. We'll see what they can do. Right now, they're currently sitting 6th in the East as of Tuesday.
Wow, that's a big jump.
So they could be playing Denver first thing if the playoffs had started today. Denver, Golden State. Ooh, that'd be a tasty matchup. Tasty.
The basketball is picking up. See, this is where I think a lot of people forget. This is where basketball gets good again. So I'm excited about those matchups.
We'll talk about that for a different day. Lock that away. Last team here, Phoenix, Booker, Bradley, Kevin. Not looking so hot. Kevin Durant calling his team out, saying they're not playing hard enough. They got embarrassed against a loss against the T-Wolves. He's not wrong. They look bad. They look bad.
This is where the trade deadline works against a team where management's trying to make some moves. The loyalty is not there and they're not running it back. And it's just caused Bradley Beal's no trade clause. Like that would have been, if he said, okay, that would have been Butler in Phoenix. Like how different would things be there? So, wow.
Yeah.
Bradley
They're going to have
Beal's,
to trade Durant next year. They have to trade him.
he's not staying. He's definitely not. Unless they go on some parabolic run here and make the play in and somehow get OKC in the first round, and because of their youth they lose and they go on a run. If they could put it together, I like their coach Budenholzer, but man, 11th in the West, they're 4 games back. That's a tough road to make up.
That's very tough. I don't know. I think Budenholzer's okay. I'm not sure.
Championship, man.
Yeah, but how much of that was Giannis and how much of that was his coaching? Yeah, that's the age-old debate. Is it's the players, the coach? Depends on the team, I would imagine. But anyways, Phoenix, real trouble here. Real trouble. Question of the week. Do you like what Toronto's doing? Yes or no? Should they tank further or keep winning some games? Let us know in the Instagram comments your hot takes, and we'll go from there. We'll save ours for next week. Let's get some comments on the Instagram side of things. All you old heads out there, Facebook is fine. It's okay. We'll still accept that. But look forward to hearing what you guys think about the Toronto Raptors and the direction as we head into the last quarter of the season. All right. Now for the fun part, the real talk. Real talk. Why do we cling to things even when we know they're wrong? I think you gave a great example as Nico Harris. Nico Harris, he's still saying this is the right move. And even though the whole world is against him, and probably in his heart of hearts, he knows he may have made a mistake. He's still clinging to it. Why do you think we as fellow believers, or even let's start with humans, why do you think we cling to things even though we know they're wrong?
No one likes to be wrong, right? No one likes to take the blame. You know, if you're a GM, no one likes to, everyone sees what you're doing and you believe in a player, but if he is bad, the good GMs are willing to move away from them. San Francisco 49ers, they're amazing at this. They drafted Trey Lance. They said, all right, Brock Purdy's our guy. I know we picked him early, but let's move him. Let's keep going on. And I think the good teams have the GMs that are willing to admit they're wrong and then make the next move to be right. And that's a good, that's like the perfect example in your faith walk, right? You're going to make mistakes. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm going to sin. So what am I going to do next? What's my next decision going to be? Is it going to keep going down that sinful road? Or I'm going to say, all right, buck stops here. Let's get things right here.
Yeah, I think that's a great example of the Trey Lance because we fleeced Cowboys for some picks. The status of a good leader is knowing when something is going wrong and making that change. I think you're right. We all love to be right. It's very hard to admit we made a mistake, and because there's a pride thing involved in there. It's like, I know what I'm doing, blah, 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 blah. But then when you're clearly wrong, you have to eventually get to the point where either accept it and make the right move, or you continue to deny it and get yourself deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole. And, you take a look at what's happening in North American politics over the last couple of years. People now, when things are switching, have to decide, did I make a mistake thinking the way I did or accepting beliefs the way I did? Or do I make a change and say, okay, this is the actual truth. I've changed because of X, Y, and Z and move on, right? There are so many things where people listen to social media. They didn't do their research. They didn't think the thought process through. They just clung to some sort of catchy phrase. And now that it's being exposed as fraudulent, wrong, lies, they have a hard time saying, you know what? I made a mistake, right? The fact that people struggle to even have a conversation with their family about it, that's a huge thing, right? If I do something wrong, you as my brother have to come by me and correct me. But the way you do that is important. And, if I listen, if I don't, I don't. Back in the day, I would correct you and just smack you up the side of the head. I can't do that anymore because you're an adult now. But the same thing, God expects us to examine ourselves when we make a mistake, ask for forgiveness and move on and move forward. I think that's a challenge that is very hard, especially within even Christian circles, because the pride of me being right is always there.
Yeah, 100%. And a great example. Now, I'm not a very big into politics kind of guy, but especially American politics, because we're based in Canada, but this one fits perfectly because it has sports in it. It has kind of faith in it, and it shows where people are just stuck in their stubborn ways, right? So there's just a big vote in America banning biological men from playing in women's sports. And what we see, and we see the result of, is so many of the Democrat voters, they voted for it to be okay for biological men to play in women's sports. And what they know already is that 79% of all Americans are against that. And so clearly they can see what the people want. They probably can see why it's a bad idea, but yet they're stuck in their ways. That's something I think most people would have a hard time arguing, especially when it comes to the physical sports. You see the boxing and the UFC where women are not only, they're getting murdered. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So
It's
I
crazy.
think when you're so stuck in your ways, you gotta, one thing that can really help you, whatever it is, especially in your personal walk, it's easier to hide things, right? It's easier to hide the sinful things that are not affecting others directly, right? One thing we like to practice is having accountability partners, like Joel was talking about, like Coach was talking about. You know, we're brothers that we can actually smack each other across the head when we're doing something stupid. Well, we probably use our words now more than smacking each other, because you know, if I swing my arm too hard now, my shoulder gets creaky. I was like, what's happening to me? Like I can hear the squeaking and like, what's going on? But having that accountability, having that people in your life that you have mentors that are checking in on you, also holding you to the standard of the Bible, that's what helps us grow and stay and avoid those sinful ways. And that can be multiplied in a bigger, not multiplied, that can be viewed in a bigger scene when it's a bigger crowd, like when it comes to politics, settings, and whatever it is. That's the lens you can view it through.
Yeah. And I think as we have to accept that if somebody's coming and holding us accountable, it's not because they're better than us, right? It's because they see something that is going wrong and they want to help you. And as the person giving accountability, you also have to understand God's grace, and how you come across it is also important. I'm not going to be standing up in your sermon and screaming, you did this when you were 6 and all sorts of nonsense like that, right? No, it's taking somebody aside and saying, hey, let's have a conversation. Let's go for coffee. Let's just do something politely and have a little bit of tact. Because, I mean, even if somebody's not struggling with something in a way an addict does, right? It's still hard to confront that sometimes. It's hard to accept that, hey, this is not right. Or I know it's right, but a lot of times it's a lot of shame that we use other feelings to deflect, right? It's a shame that I'm doing this, so I'm going to react angrily, or I'm going to cut you out of my life. I'm going to do that. It's because we know it's wrong, right? Like I think I talked about last week, where most people are very good at giving 80% of their heart to God. Like I got to keep control of the last little bit, and I'm like that too. That's me to a shell. I love knowing the next 10 steps ahead. It's very hard for me to say, okay, it's all yours. I'm just going to walk blindly in faith. It's very hard for me to do that. But when I realized that, I said, okay, I'm going to not worry about this. I'm going to do the right things I need to do and let God do what he needs to do. Stuff just lines up because God's taking care of you. It's not coincidence, right? You're following God's plan. And again, it may not always go right. You may not get that raise. You may not get that promotion. You may not get that brand new whatever you're looking for, right? But by giving up the parts that you struggle to give up, by giving up and letting yourself fully immerse yourself in God's plan for you, you're opening doors to things you have no idea about. Because again, our realm of possibility is only humankind. God doesn't operate, he operates outside of our box that we can think of. So yes, be held accountable, hold yourself accountable. And I think, one of the nice things that we do at Church in the City is the life groups. It's an easy way to connect with other believers, learn about God, and it's a safe environment because it's all people looking to move forward with each other. So I think that's a cool aspect as well.
Yeah, for sure. And our real topic is, why do we cling to things even when we know they're wrong? Well, all of that boils down to really is this. It's like, once you come to the understanding that what I have is not actually mine, my finances, the money I got in my bank account, that's not mine. That's God's. My time, that's not mine. That's God's. God's given me the next breath, the next day. And when you get to that, when you get to understand that, when you know you're dedicated to live your life to honor God and to share the good news, to grow closer with him and share that relationship and love with other people. When that is your heartbeat, your everything, it changes everything for you. It changes perspective. It's a lot easier to admit when you're wrong, because very often we are wrong when we use our strength and our will and our guidance and our selfish desires. But when you have that focus, I like to call it kingdom purpose. When you have kingdom purpose in all that you do, that's life changing. That's life changing in your sports, in your athletics, in your finances, in your family life, in your relationships. It's every part of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're more free once you let things go.
But I
Trusting
like
God
what you
and He'll
said
take
too,
care of you.
Coach. Like when you have to be like this and let God take the lead, it can be difficult. I like
It's
how you
terrifying.
put that.
One,
Yeah.
it's terrifying. It's
Yeah.
terrifying. We grow up in this world where you're taught, okay, you go to school, graduate high school, you go to university, you do a trade, then you get a job, you get a partner, a wife, as you like to say. He hates partner. You get a wife, you get married or a husband, you get your white picket fence house, your kids, blah, blah, blah. You're supposed to have things all lined out and follow this plan. When in reality, life is messy, life is difficult. It's also fun, but the key problem, our key difference is we're trying to follow our own plan, not following the plan God has for us. And that's something that is definitely counterculture, is saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to trust God and I'm just going to do what he says. At an early age, that's a tough thing for most young people to do, I think. And everybody.
What's that Indiana Jones movie where they come up to the cliff and it's like a mirage? It looks like there's no way to get across.
Holy Grail, the one with the Holy Grail, right?
Exactly. And
yeah.
Can you just explain that scene again? Because you watched it more than I have.
Not much more. So they're looking for the Holy Grail. It's Indiana Jones, and he's with his dad. And I think at this point the Nazi guy has him at gunpoint, and they have to cross this chasm. And when you look at it straight across, it just seems like it's miles and miles and miles deep. So there's some sort of clue that says walking in faith. Again, I don't remember the whole thing, but I think it's Indiana Jones. I think it's Harrison Ford figures it out, and he takes a hesitant step off the cliff. And instead of falling to his death and to his peril below, he lands on solid ground. There we go. Lands on solid ground. And he lands on solid ground because of the way the bridge is built. It looks like it's empty, right? So I think the analogy you're trying to get to is God knows the plan for you. God has the bridge for you. It's up to you to step in faith.
Yeah, 100%. There you go. Be like Indiana Jones.
Be like Indy. Be like Indy. I love it. I think that's a great way to wrap up for today. Great way to wrap up today. Nice analogy. Good call out. So remember, like us on Instagram, Facebook, on X, share us on your socials.
TikTok.
For those of you, and TikTok. Yes, and TikTok. But share us, like, subscribe. Not for us, not for our sake, but to glorify God, to share his message with those around the world. And give us your hot Raptors takes. We want to hear them. That's all I got. Let's go. Peace, world.
Peace.